Hey guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Dr. Tom LaHue. We're going to be talking about Enneagram Type 6 today, and we're going to be looking at the sin of the 6, which is called fear. So we're going to explore this problem of fear and then, how we might be able to help ourselves and help the people that we love that are Type 6s deal with that sin, that problem, that passion, that fear in a little more productive way, how we can be compassionate with one another. Before we jump into this information, just a reminder, in the description below is a link to my website, tomlahue.com. I do offer Enneagram coaching and relationship coaching based on the Enneagram. I have several different plans to choose from, and you can also just book a single appointment and check it out. And I'd love to meet with you and love to talk to you about whatever's going on in your life and develop a plan to move forward in life. Also, there's a lot of learning opportunities on my website. I have on-demand classes as well as live classes coming up on Zoom, and I would love for you to consider going through one of my certificate programs in Enneagram coaching or any of the other many topics that we offer on that website. So thanks again. I really appreciate your support. Thank you for liking and subscribing to the channel. It really helps. And now let's jump into this discussion on the sin of Enneagram Type 6. Okay, so we all know 6s are called the Loyalist or the Loyal Skeptic, the Guardian, the Trooper. There's a lot of terms that we could use. 6-wing 7, the Buddy, 6-wing 5, the Defender. Very much a problem solver type person, but sometimes 6s can have a problem with feeling like they've come to a complete resolution to their own problems, to their own decisions. They often look externally for support, guidance, and assurance. And so I'm going to be looking at some notes that I have available for you. There's notes on Type 6 and all of the other types on my website. Just go to my store tab, and at the top left of that store tab, you'll find a ebook called Shadows of the Soul. And you can download that PDF for free. It's just something that you can use as a tool. It's got not only Type 6, but all the other types as well. This information. I'm going to be looking at my notes while I talk about this. And let's just jump into this information. So they are often known for their commitment to security, reliability, and community. And that's three great things: security, reliability, and community. I would say 6s often come across as concerned people that are vigilant. They are aware of their environment, aware of what's going on. They are alert, and they are a compliant type because they're paying attention to the world around them and then complying their energy and encouraging us to comply our attention and our energy to the potential threats and problems that may be around us. They are incredibly loyal friends and loyal to their families and the systems in which they believe and trust, or you could say to the institutions that they believe and trust. 6s could be very loyal to their country, very loyal to their church, loyal to their corporation, their business, loyal to their car mechanic, their chiropractor, their health food store. All of these things can become issues for a 6 and become very, think like the home team, cheering for the home team, rooting for the home team, and very much want to feel like they're a part of the community and that the community has their back and will be there to support them. They sometimes wrestle with a significant amount of anxiety and doubt, preparing for potential challenges and making plans for potential challenges, and seeking, you might say, a safety net for their lives or for themselves. The core sin of Enneagram Type 6 is called fear. And yes, it could be a fear of anything and everything, or whatever is, surfaced as a potential problem, in the immediate context. But think the greater fear here behind this is the lack of support, the lack of assurance, and the lack of guidance. Like being without those things. 6s are often the people that pull you aside, tell you about their problem, and then say things to you like, does this make sense? Okay, I'm not crazy, right? That's what they said, right? So it's okay. And so they often reach out externally to others for support, assurance, and guidance. And 6s don't often need you to solve their problems for them. They're quite capable usually of solving problems. I mean, they kind of run scenarios all the time of potential problems. They often don't need us to solve their problems as much as they need us to attend to their problems. Whatever's going on, whatever challenge, whatever issue they may be struggling with or facing, they typically reach out not so someone else will give them a solution, but so someone else can evaluate their solutions. And they like to run their ideas past another person, past people they trust, just to get other people's feedback. So think of like bouncing it off of you. And that takes the stress off of us who relate to a type 6. We don't always have to solve their problem. You know, sometimes if you feel like you have to solve somebody's problems, you might minimize their problem, saying things that are not helpful at all, like, well, I don't think this is a real problem. I don't think this is anything you need to worry about. I think you're making too much out of this. All of that is probably going to come across to a 6 as being minimizing and diminishing, and there's a good chance the 6 will just decide that you're not the kind of person that is going to be there to support them. You're not the kind of person that can recognize a potential problem, and if you do, you don't see the importance of this problem, so how could I depend on you in a difficult situation? I can't. So it may be far more helpful, instead of saying things like, I don't think this is a problem, or I think you're making too much out of this, to change that a little bit and maybe say things like, well, I could see that this could very well be a problem. What do you think we should do? Or what have you been thinking about in terms of solving this problem? You know, probably one of the most helpful things we can say, don't tell a 6 there's not a problem here. You may feel like that as a 9 or a 1 or a 7 or whatever your type is. You may feel like there's not really a problem here, that the 6 is kind of projecting this problem out into the world and then finding something to worry about. And because that feels safer to them than not knowing what to worry about. And so they're projecting this issue out there as though it's a problem, seeing a problem when there really isn't a problem. You may feel that way, but probably more helpful is to say something like this. Well, you know what? You're not alone in this. I'm here to support you. I'm here to help you. And no matter what happens, I'm not going to give up on you, or I'm not going to walk away from you. You know that you can count on me. I'll be here with you no matter what happens. That's probably far more helpful than telling them that they're not really, seeing a problem. Or you could say something like this. Well, you've handled difficult things in the past. I have full confidence that whatever happens, you're going to be able to handle it. That is far more empowering. To say something like, well, I know that you've faced trouble in the past. You've made it through all of that. And I have complete confidence that you're going to make it through whatever happens. And remember, you're not alone in this. I'm going to be here with you. And that's the kind of stuff that I think is very healing and very hopeful to a 7 or to a 6 when maybe they are spiraling in their thinking. Or you might just say something to them like, well, it's okay I can understand why you feel apprehensive, or I can understand why you feel anxious about this. That makes a lot of sense. And that validates the 6 when they're having these feelings. Instead of minimizing and diminishing or making them feel like they're not in touch with reality, far more helpful to say, well, I can understand why. And you may think, well, I don't really understand exactly, but I can understand if I was a 6. Maybe say it that way. Don't say that part out loud. Well, I guess if I was a 6, I'd be worried about that too. Don't say that part out loud. Just say, well, I can understand why. Because, the reality is whatever the problem is, if you escalate it to the level that the 6 is probably escalating it in their mind, then it is quite scary. Okay. Fear, by the way, is a terrible thing. It's an awful thing. I'm a 7 wing 6, and I do have a very strong wing 6. And there are times when this fear, it feels like burning lava coming up inside me. And I don't like that feeling. Like, I can't imagine all the time feeling this. Maybe my wife will be upset with me, and I'll feel this, anxious feeling like, uh-oh, somebody's upset with me. Or if things are changing at work and I don't like how they're going and we're going to have all these meetings or something, I might feel that rush of panic, that butterfly feeling or that anxious feeling. And I got to tell you, that feeling is awful. Like, it's hard to go to sleep when you feel like that. It's hard to rest. It's hard to relax. It's hard to focus on the positive. It feels terrible. And if that's what you guys are feeling, and if it's all the time, my heart does go out to you. Like, I can't help but feel compassionate, because my experience of fear is I don't like it. And I always think, one thing that a 7 might tell a 6 that's a little hopeful is there's a very fine line between fear and excitement. And a lot of times when you're feeling fear, ask yourself, how far away am I that I could maybe translate this into excitement? Because excitement is a much more positive feeling. Could I, like getting up to speak in front of a crowd, you might feel this fear, you might feel this anxiety, you might feel this panic, but maybe you could tell yourself, well, maybe what I'm feeling now is not fear, but excitement. Then it might be a little easier for you to live with that if you could translate it into excitement. Often, though, I see 6s translating other feelings into fear, like where you should feel sad, or where a normal person, a person who's not a 6. By the way, the 6, one of the names for the 6 is the normal person. So 6s, they are like the backbone of the community. They are the normal people, the Levi wearing, American flag waving, country music listening to, apple pie and fried chicken people. Go to church on Sunday. I mean, this is small town USA. Salt of the earth kind of people. One of the names is the normal person, or the normal guy. You might think like this, that sometimes where another type might feel sadness, or another type might feel, frustration, notice if you translate that into fear. Like instead of feeling sad, you might feel fear, like, well, what if this happens to me? Or what if this happens again? Or what if we can't stop this? Or what if we can't fix this? Just notice if you translate things into fear. Something else I've noticed with 6 is a lot of times also they'll translate fear into anger. Like when fear sort of initiates a flight or fight response. What is it? Flight, fight, fawn, freeze. You get it, right? There's an initiation of a response. There's like a physiological change in the body, and you're on high alert, and you're ready to either respond by attacking or by running away, or maybe you just freeze, or maybe you fawn over the other person, and flatter them in order to resolve the tension. But sometimes it seems like with 6s, and maybe it's more the counterphobic types, but it seems like sometimes that fear will be translated into anger. Like it starts with fear, and then maybe you get angry because somebody made you feel this way. Somebody made you, and there's the projection, the defense strategy of a 6. Somebody made you feel afraid, and so then it turns to anger. Like think when somebody does a jump scare, you walk out of the bathroom and they're right there at the door and boo, they scare you. At first you're going to feel fear, but then what comes next? It's, you might punch that person or push them back or yell at them. Usually what follows right after that is anger. Okay, so not just typical worrying about everyday matters, but a deep-seated, ongoing, persistent anxiety that permeates your outlook in life. It's kind of the Murphy's Law, whatever could go wrong will go wrong, or it's sort of that worst case scenario thinking, well, what if this happens? What would we do if this happens? And it may be interesting, all of these scenarios, as you kind of work them out in your head before anything ever happens, you're working out all these plans of what are you going to say? If they say this, then maybe you'll say that. And then what happens when it doesn't work out like that at all? What happens when you get to that moment and your plan isn't what happens? They didn't say what you thought they were going to say. They said something else, and you had prepared a response, but then they went in a totally different direction. This could lead to troubling problems for you because you feel like I'm trying to prepare for these scenarios, but I can't. But my preparation isn't working. Like my preparation isn't matching the reality. Why won't these people answer the way I thought they would answer in my head? And this could lead to some frustration, even some depression, as things don't work out in life the way you plan on them working out, which very rarely do they ever work out the way we plan that they're going to work out. And so I wouldn't say to a 6, don't be afraid. I think I would say something more like, well, I can understand why you might feel afraid for sure. Even though I might not feel the same intensity of fear, I can understand. I mean, it makes sense. I know what fear feels like, and it feels awful. So I can imagine, I can understand why you feel the feelings you feel. And I'm not going to tell you you're okay. I'm not going to tell the 6 that they're fine or that that they don't need to worry. Like, never tell a 6, do you trust me? Don't tell them that. Don't ask them, do you trust me? Because you'll probably get a response like, I did until you asked me if I trust you. Now I don't trust you, because who would ask me if I trust them? If they were trustworthy, they wouldn't ask me that. So I wouldn't tell a 6, do you trust me? I wouldn't tell a 6, don't be afraid of this. I think I would validate their fear and say, well, I can understand why you feel afraid of this. The reality is a lot of things could go wrong in life, but you're going to be okay. And I think that is more of the overriding message. Like, yes, there are a lot of problems in this world. This world is broken and there's a lot of things to be afraid of. And, people die every day in terrible ways. And yes, anything could happen. You could come down with a disease. You could get in an accident. Your marriage could fall apart. You could get expelled from school. You could be falsely accused. I mean, there's all kinds of terrible things that could happen on any given day. And I don't want to minimize that and say, yeah, but the chances of that happening are not very high. I don't want to minimize that fear. I want to legitimize it and say, yeah, actually, I understand. That makes a lot of sense. But whatever happens, I think you're going to be okay. Well, why? Well, because you're stronger than you think you are, and you've made it through so many challenges before, and you have a great network of people around you, me including, that are there to support you and to help you and to encourage you. In other words, you have a team. And I imagine probably the best feeling in the world for a 6, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, but I would imagine the best feeling in the world is, to be a little kid, a little Enneagram 6 kid out on a playground, and there's a bully on the playground. The bully starts pushing on you, pushes you down. And as you're falling to the ground, you dust yourself off, and this bully is about to come, and pound on you. And you turn and look, and there's a whole football team of people that love you and care about you that are running toward this situation to defend you and to protect you. I imagine that's got to be like the best feeling in the world, to have like this support structure in place of people who understand you, people who care about you, people who will put themselves at risk in order to protect you. And that's often where you see 6s in real life. You see them as the EMTs, the police officers, the United States Marines, soldiers. I mean, you see them often in those roles of providing, the Coast Guard, providing protection, guardians, troopers. They're on the alert. Oh, you're in trouble? Well, I'm going to rush in there and help you in this crisis. I don't want you to feel like you're all alone. That's a terrible feeling. I'm here to support, encourage, and help. Think like the 911 operators, that I'm right here with you. I'm here to answer your questions. I'm here. You're not alone. And I think, it's an awful feeling to be alone. It's an awful feeling to be by yourself in the middle of a crisis and the world's opening up and swallowing everything around you. That is a terrible feeling. And I would want to know that I had some people in my life that are going to be there who are loyal, who will, be there to defend and protect and go with me in these troubles. And I think that is, the 6 world and the 6 plea with the rest of us. 6s are people who feel an obligation to doubt whatever it is. There's that feeling like, oh, I should have known. I knew it. Why didn't I listen to myself? I knew that person wasn't everything that they claimed to be. So that obligation to doubt and an obligation to stay vigilant to their environment, to the potential problems, and an obligation to warn others. Wave the flag and blow the trumpets and say, hey, people, do you not understand what's going on here? Do you not understand what could possibly happen here? You need to wake up, people, and you need to pay attention to this. And then, if you want to decide to go ahead, if you want to decide to not pay attention and to not listen, then that's on you. It's my responsibility to alert you, to inform you, and to warn you. But I'm not going to tell you what to do. If you want to go ahead and go headlong into danger, then that's something that's up to you. But everybody needs to see that I did my part in warning this person so that when the whole thing comes crumbling down, when the whole thing falls apart, no one blames me because I did my part in alerting you to the potential dangers of what you're about to get into. I think a lot of preachers are sixes and ones. You know, a lot of pastors are ones and or threes and sevens as well. But I know many preachers that have this kind of, mindset. Like, you need to go out there on the streets, you need to warn people, you need to tell people, you need to alert them, you need to talk about eternity, you need to ask them the hard questions. Because there's this sense of responsibility that I need to alert you to potential dangers. And that, let's just pause and say that's not a bad thing at all. That's a very good thing. I mean, there needs to be, somebody in our group needs to be this person, needs to be the babysitter, the concerned citizen. And I realize that it can be taken too far and people can get very irritated with you. People could get very frustrated with all of this anxious energy, with all of this questioning. One more question. This obligation to question is very six. And, teachers, for example, or leaders could get irritated or frustrated when we constantly have to answer questions, or we've got somebody that is 100% for us, but they keep undermining our leadership with all kinds of challenging questions. But think the old-fashioned reporter, not the reporters today, that just download the news and talk in a camera, but I mean the old-fashioned reporters that try to get to the bottom of things. They investigate corporations for corruption, they investigate political leaders for corruption, they investigate preachers for corruption. And this is that sort of six-wing five, richness and goodness to get to the bottom of things, to get to the truth, and show and expose the lies, expose the deceptions, expose the corruption. There's a lot of these kinds of people on political podcasts. Probably most of them are either fives or six-wing fives on political podcasts. There's a couple eights out there too, but challenging people with right information, getting to the bottom of things. The never ever behavior for a six is never lie to a six. Just don't do it. Tell the truth, even if it's bad news, even if it's heartbreaking news. It's so much better because a six can handle anything. A six can handle anything you throw at them as long as they can see it in truth and honesty. But when you start obscuring it with deception and lies, well, there's nothing worse. There's nothing, more terrifying than for a six to be trying to engage with a problem, but you're not being told the truth. And so you can't deal with the problem as it is because it's obscured in falsehoods, it's obscured in ambiguity. And so if you have bad news to say to a six, it's better to just sit them down and say, look, I'm going to shoot you straight. Okay, here's what's going on. I very well might lose my job. And just shoot it straight, because once the six hears what it is, okay. All right, I can handle this. We can handle this. But when you're dancing around the bush, beating around the bush, and you're not being clear and you're being ambiguous, now the six has to scan for what are you saying and what do you mean by this, and is your forehead sweating as you're talking about this? And it's so much better to just be clear, direct, and straightforward, because I believe the six can handle it, but they just can't handle the lies. They can't handle the deception. And when they find out that you've been lying to them, it might be game over. It really might be, because how can I trust you? If you would lie to me about mashed potatoes and gravy, then why wouldn't you lie to me about our marriage? If you would lie to me about going to the movies and about spending that money at the movies, then maybe you would lie to me about, who knows what. And then the wheels start turning. So never lie to a six. And you never lie to anybody, but especially to a six. So Sixes are often seeking certainty in an uncertain world. Now, don't try to convince them that the world is not uncertain, because it is uncertain. I mean, just spend some time in a hospital and you will see the uncertainty of life, right? Talk to police officers, talk to paramedics or to fire department, talk to them about the accidents that they clean up, or even school teachers and the chaos they have to deal with in their life. The world is very uncertain, but there are certain certainties in this uncertain world. And this might lead you down a spiritual path, which would be a good thing. But sixes are often looking for those things that provide stability in life. And this could be relationships, this could be institutions, this could be spiritual foundations, this could be political parties or political views or political groups that they think are going to provide them some stability in an unstable world. Sixes, I often notice that sixes tend to be attracted to eights, nines, and ones. And it may be because of that gut type, they sort of have this centered resilience about them of knowing what they want to do, or they know that everything's going to be okay, and they might provide some stability in the life of that otherwise volatile six. Okay. The underlying fear could manifest in a lot of different ways. Skepticism, indecisiveness. Indecisiveness can be a real problem. At least I think so. Well, maybe not. Yeah, I think so. Indecisiveness can be a real problem. Because you want to move forward, but you keep second guessing yourself. It's like there's so much information and so much moving of the information that it's hard for you to chart a course and feel confident about it. Because, well, wait a minute, hold on a second. What about this information? Or what about what Mary said? Or what about... And so you might second guess yourself so much that it's hard for you to make any progress or gain any momentum in any long-term direction because you keep questioning yourself. So indecisiveness, apprehension, a strong, sometimes overdependence on authority figures, or a resistance against authority figures. Or looking for systems or institutions to guide you and give you security. Type 6's fear could lead them to be overly cautious. Sometimes you might even say like paralyzed, not able to make decisions, seeing all of the potential pitfalls in any option that is suggested. Their loyalty and their need for security can sometimes turn into a overdependency on others or a codependency on others. They might even stay in situations too long. That loyalty, that sense of loyalty might keep them in situations that aren't really maybe in their best interest, or relationships that aren't really in their best interest, for fear of the unknown or of losing the support. At least even if I'm living in chaos, I understand the chaos, and if I escape from this chaos, then I don't know what might happen. If I move out and I leave the bum and I move out, how am I going to pay my rent? Where am I going to find a place, and what's going to happen with the kids? And so this fear of the unknown might keep you locked in something terrible because it's known. Okay. All right. So for growth, realizing that often the problem here is you're a six feeling the stuff sixes feel, you might start to tap yourself on the head and say, well, there I go again. There I go again, turning something good into something scary. There I go again, allowing my fears to manifest. There I go again, not trusting myself or second guessing myself. There I go again, feeling overwhelmed and like I'm unable to handle the challenges that are coming toward me, and building this inner confidence, knowing that it is uncertain out there, but there are some things that I can be certain of. And uncertainty is a part of life. It's a part of everybody's life. It just doesn't bother everyone maybe as much as it bothers you. Uncertainty is not always a signal that there's danger. Uncertainty, again, could move you toward excitement and to enthusiasm rather than to fear and panic and dread. So uncertainty is not always a signal that there's danger or that you need help. Practicing mindfulness, being more objective, think leaning into that 5 and saying, let me look at the actual data here, because I'm very worried about whatever is on my mind right now, but let me look at the actual statistics, the actual facts, the actual words that have been said, and rather than my speculations about what could happen, let me look at the actual data. And then think your other wing's a 7. Being positive, lighthearted, childlike, believing the best and believing that people want your best. Leaning into both of those wings and then drawing that strength from the 9 that you're connected to, that, okay, I've done everything I can do and I'm just going to have to relax. I'm just going to have to tell myself, that I can only prepare so much, and I'm just going to have to allow the rest to work itself out. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what the end result is going to be, but I'm going to be okay. And ultimately, even when I face death, and that may be something for you to think about, because think the worst thing that could happen to you is your physical death. I mean, that's the ultimate ending to all this. If you could resolve that issue and work things out, so that you no longer fear the worst thing that could happen to you, then maybe once you can face death, then life is much more livable. In other words, if you answer the ultimate question or have answers for the ultimate question, then maybe the daily struggles or the daily problems that we go through might be put into better perspective. So I'm always here to answer any questions about the Enneagram. I'm always here to answer any spiritual questions you might have as well that I can answer. I'm more than happy to help you. All right, so learning to trust yourself. Recognize that you have an amazing strength, an amazing fast mind. You are the problem solver in the room. And letting yourself breathe and letting yourself rest and letting yourself engage with your own thinking and engage with the support and the help that's around you. Maybe getting back into nature and just slowing down for a minute and relaxing and just taking your pulse and saying, am I okay right now? Yeah, I'm okay right now. Okay, I'm okay right now. All right, that could be something that we could start there. I'm okay right now. I'm all right. Maybe exercise could be something useful, or even just, taking some long walks, some brisk walks, and getting some of that physical energy up to let that anxiety out. There may be some herbs or something like that that could be useful or helpful. There's a lot of what are called adaptogens that kind of help you mellow out a little bit without being drugged. Embracing faith in yourself. And, as kind of corny as that sounds, think about it like this. You're probably one of the smartest people in the room. I think you're underestimating your own ability to work things out and get yourself out of a jam. When push comes to shove, you are able to pull yourself up by the bootstraps and work yourself out of many problems. It's happened in the past, and let's have some confidence that you'll be able to do that in the future. Think like this. When push comes to shove and your back's against the wall, you are a lot bigger and more powerful than you realize, and clever and more clever than maybe you realize. So have a little bit of confidence in that. Okay, the reality is when I've gotten stuck before, or when I've gotten overwhelmed before, I've always managed to get out of it. Sometimes I've leaned on other people or I've leaned on other resources, but I've always managed to work myself out of these difficult situations. Okay, well, if that's true, then maybe you will have the fortitude to be able to do that again. Maybe it hasn't always been easy, and it's not that everything's been, easy for you, but you've been able to make it through hard things before. And so when hard things come at you again, believe in your own ability to be able to handle that. And then increase your faith in God, increase your faith in others, and the bigger picture that you will be able to navigate life. So you're not alone in this. You're able to handle difficult situations. You've got this. It's okay to feel scared. Let's talk about what's worrying you. That can be one of the best things that your partner could provide for you, is to just be available to say, wow, okay, that makes a lot of sense. Let's talk about what's bothering you. Let's talk about what's worrying you. And just to give you that space to be able to work through your problems. Or let's look at the facts together. Or let's look at the options together. If somebody were to come along to you in one of those moments where you're feeling overwhelmed, think how wonderful it would be to hear them say, you know, I admire you for how thoughtful you are in assessing all these risks. That's not usually what they say, right? They usually say, oh my goodness, here we go again. I can't believe it. Debbie Downer, always focusing on the negative. But wouldn't it be more helpful if they would say to you something like, wow, I really admire you for being able to see potential problems. And remember, it's okay to ask for help. You don't have to figure out everything by yourself. You're not alone, okay? You might feel like you're alone, but you're not really alone. If nobody else is in your life, I'm here right now talking to you. I'm a person who is trying to speak some hope into your life, and I'm happy to work with you. I would love to work with you, maybe 3 weeks or 6 weeks or whatever it takes to help you get through, and you will get through it. You will get through it. You're stronger than you think you are. You're smarter than maybe you realize. You have this amazing knack for winding up on the top side of things. And I know you feel like you maybe are at the bottom of things right now, but you're going to make it through it. It's going to be okay. It may not work out the way you plan it, and people may not respond the way you think they will, but you're going to be okay, and you're going to make it through this. So let's make a plan together. That would be so much more helpful to a 6 who's feeling overwhelmed. Yeah, okay, I think that's a good place to stop. I think that's a good place for us to end this discussion. And I maybe like bring up a couple of Bible verses if you like that kind of thing. I think about probably 1 Peter chapter 5, which I've done a lot of study on the Apostle Peter. I think he might be a 6. Think about it at the end when Jesus says to him, you're going to betray me. The loyalist says, never, 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 I'll never betray you. But then when push comes to shove, he's overwhelmed by his fears and he does betray Jesus. But one of the things that Peter says in his letters, he says, cast all your anxiety on him because he cares for you. It's not that anxiety is not real. It's not that anxiety is not, you don't have to deny it. He just says this is what you need to do with it. You need to take it to the Lord. Take it to a power greater than yours. Pray about it. And even if you're not a Christian and you don't do the whole prayer thing, you could certainly do some mindful meditation. You could visualize yourself releasing this anxiety. Like think of it as a great big ball of fire that's living within you, or something like that. And then imagine yourself releasing that. Imagine yourself setting that down. And that's ultimately what you're doing with God, is you're taking your fears, your dread, your worries, your concerns, and you're bringing them to the Lord, and you're saying, God, you got to help me with this because I'm tapped out. I don't know what to do. I can't see the future, and I need your comfort. I need your assurance. Think about that psalm that everybody knows, that Psalm 23, even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, right? Why? Because you're with me, and God is with you, and you got probably, hopefully, a lot of good people who are with you in this journey. You might right now feel like everybody's against you, but chances are they aren't. There may be 1 or 2 people that are against you, but you no doubt have some people in your corner. And if you reach out to them and they aren't smart enough to know what to say, tell them what to say. Pick up the phone and call them and say, look, I need to talk to you right now. I'm feeling overwhelmed with some of these things going on in my life. Don't tell me everything's going to be fine. I don't need you to fix my problems. I just need you to be a supportive person in my life. So don't tell me that my problems aren't real. Don't tell me that I'm just blowing things out of proportion. That's not what I need from you right now. What I need from you is just to know that you are understanding what's bothering me and that you are a supportive friend. And maybe you have to tell them exactly what to say until you teach this other person, how to be a better friend to you or how to respond to you in a way that's more helpful to you. All right, guys. Wow. Good stuff. Like I said, you can download the notes for free on my website. Just go to the store tab and click on the book Shadows of the Soul. It's a free ebook that's there for you with a lot of notes on type 6 and also all the other types. And otherwise, I'll see you next time. Thank you guys, and as always, be present to life.